Hi, I'm Chad. This is my kitchen. Today we're going to work on cream soups. I'm actually going to be making two cream soups at the same time. One of which is going to be a chowder and the other is going to be baked potato soup. Again, with a spoon, you're just going to scoop that out into your potatoes. Now, the nice thing is, because they are cooked, they're not going to oxidize anywhere near as fast as the raw potatoes, which you see are actually in the water. Had I left those out, they would have turned pink and then they would have gone black. And that's the oxidation, and we don't want that. When I cut up the celery, as you can see, I left the leaves as part of it. The leaves have probably some of the most flavorful part of the celery, and it kind of gives it a nice little look. So that's going to go into both of them. And just our basic seasonings that we're going to be using are salt, white pepper. Because it's cream soup, we want to use white pepper because we don't want those little black specks because it looked like it got burnt. We'll use a little bit of garlic, and we might use a little onion powder depending on how I'm feeling. So we're going to start, this will be our corn chowder side, and this will be our baked potato soup side. So with this one, we're going to start with the bacon. So we're going to turn this on, and we want to turn it up to about 8 or 7. We're going to use about half the bacon right now and just see how well that cooks down. Maybe we'll make that about 3/4. We'll just throw it all in there. Everybody likes bacon, right? Okay, so we're going to let that get going. And remember, when the dishes are dirty, put them in the sink or in the washing or the dishwasher so your wife doesn't get mad at you. Husband or whoever you have at home. Or, you know what, if you've got a multiple personality, so you don't get upset at yourself. Okay, so that's going to start doing that. We're going to get this one to about the same temperature, and we're going to have the bacon put in this, or the butter put in this one. Now, as you see, I've cubed the butter ahead of time. It just makes it faster to actually melt in the pot. And generally speaking, when you're doing butter and flour as a roux, it's 1-to-1. So if I put a cup of butter in, you want a cup of flour. That's kind of the rule of thumb. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have your utensils out and ready to go before you actually start. So you're not just, going and trying to figure out where everything is and scrambling and that kind of thing. This is metal. This is nonstick. This does not touch this. This can go in this. Metal, good. Stainless steel, good. Non-stick gets rubber or plastic or silicone. Never metal. Now for the bacon, you want to make sure that you want to get this rendered down probably as close as you can. You don't want to burn it, but you definitely want to get the fat out of there so that you don't get a whole bunch at the end. And if you leave metal on the butter like I did, you're going to want to get that out. With soups, especially these kind being cream soups, they can very easily burn. So this is not one of those things that you can just put on and let go like a clear soup or a broth soup. That one you can just let boil and do its thing, but these ones have a tendency to burn fairly quickly or separate or that kind of thing. And if you haven't ever cooked with milk before, when milk starts to boil, it just goes everywhere and it is a mess, believe me. I speak from experience. When you're using butter as your fat, the more brown you make the butter, the nuttier the flavor. We don't want it to be nutty and we don't want it to be brown. So we just basically want it to be melted so that we can add our onions and celery within there. And we're going to do what's called sweating our onions and celery. So we're going to put half of our onions in here. Maybe just slightly more than half because it's the bigger pot. And we're going to put just over half of the celery in here as well. Now, generally as a rule, I'm not a big fan of celery, but it's really important for these kind of soups just to give it a little bit of extra flavor. Now, like I was saying before, metal never goes in here. You can use wood in here, no problem, for either one. The other nice thing is about wood is that you don't have to worry about the handle getting hot and burning yourself and that kind of thing, especially if, you know, if you're kind of injury prone, like some people that I live with. Now that the celery and onions are in this pot, I can turn it on high because I want to sweat them. Sweating them means basically getting the flavor out and just making them tender. We don't want them browned, we don't want them caramelized or anything like that. We just want the main flavor out of them right now. At this point, we can actually add a little bit of salt to the celery and onions over here. We don't really want to add any to the bacon because, again, with it being cured, it's already going to have a really salt flavor to it, so we don't want to overpower that. And as you'll find out as we're going through, you know, these different kind of cooking things, cooking is a lot about timing. You need to, if you start to see that the butter is starting to turn a little bit brown, you want to turn the heat down so that it doesn't get any more brown. We want to make sure, like I said, this is a cream soup, so we want to keep it a nice white color. The color of once you put the flour in, now you have to absolutely make sure that you are watching and stirring occasionally, because the flour will start to sink to the bottom, it will stick to the bottom of your pan, and it will end up burning. The bacon's starting to render nicely. You can see a lot of the fat in there. We want to make sure that, again, we don't want to brown it, but we don't want it to be raw either. So we'll let this go just a little bit longer. I've turned this one down just a little bit because it was starting to get a little high and it was looking like it was going to start browning a bit. So again, like, we don't want that to happen. Okay, so as you can see, the celery, the onions are starting to get clear, and we're going to add our flour to this one and start cooking the roux out. Now keep in mind, the thicker the roux, the more stock and other sauce you have, or liquid you need to put in here. Here we go. We're going to add the stock into our roux. Don't add it all in at once. Add about 2 cups in at a time. Get that stirred in really well so that you don't have any lumps. And as you see, it's a nice, thin, and smooth portions part together. Now I can add my liquid in the full amount because I made sure there was no lumps at that point. You are making like clam chowder or seafood chowder. You may or may not want the bacon. You may be using butter like I did over here. Now the main difference between the two, the chowder uses raw potatoes and the baked potato soup uses baked potatoes. Now, because the raw potatoes are raw, we're going to be cooking them longer in the stock in here to get the flavor. Now, potatoes pretty much take on any flavor that you put them in. So this has a bacon, strong, smoky, bacony flavor. That's what the potatoes are going to end up tasting like. We can afford to put those in with the liquid and cook those and boil those for a while. We do not want to put the baked potatoes in here because as you stir it, they're going to crumble and you're going to have mashed potatoes in here and not the big, thick pieces of baked potato. So it's at this point here, we're going to have a look at the baked potato soup. And as you can see, when I put the spoon in there, it barely coats it, but it just pretty much runs off. So we need to decide, are we going to thicken this or is the potatoes going to make enough of a difference? Well, I think that we need to make it so that it needs to be just a little bit thicker. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another type of thickening agent, which is called a slurry or a whitewash, which basically is flour and water. Now, we want to make sure that we're stirring as this goes in because it will make lumps if you don't. Good, thicken up enough for us to be able to add the potatoes, season, and then add the heavy cream at the end. And then this soup will be done. and then we'll show you how to plate it and garnish it. When you're running your spoon through, you can actually feel the potatoes against the spoon, and you can feel that they are hard. When it starts to, when they start to cook and get right out the way they're supposed to, they actually don't bounce off of the spoon like they do when they're so hard. They just kind of slide off, and you don't get as much resistance. So we're going to make this one nice and, we're going to put it down nice and low and let that simmer so that it doesn't burn or anything. And we're going to make sure that this one gets thick, and then we're going to put this in a different bowl, and we're going to move our corn chowder into this pot. That's good. We're going to add a little bit of salt to it again because it just needs a little bit here. And because the potatoes themselves don't have a whole lot in them, so we want to make sure that that's got some. We're going to add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of garlic powder. Garlic powder, probably about, well, to taste, but I like to put about a tablespoon, like or half a tablespoon in, and I don't like to overdo it on pepper, again, because I don't like it to overpower the flavor. So probably about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half of white pepper. And we'll give that a good stir. Take some of the hot liquid from here, place it into a separate bowl, and this is called tempering. We want to temper the cream. So we want to bring it up to half the temperature of what's in the pot so that it doesn't shock it to the point of separating. And when it's separating, again, it's from the solids from the fats. So as we've got this, we want to make sure that we are stirring so it doesn't separate. And we put about 500 mils or 2 cups. Sorry, 1 cup. Yeah, 2 cups. We want to just feel, okay, so that's warm. We want to add just another couple in there just to make sure that it is warm enough and it's not going to, like I said, curdle or separate. Okay, so once we've got that in there, that should be good. That'll be warmed up enough. You want to, again, you want to whisk it as it's going in because you don't want it to go in one specific spot and get too hot. So this soup is going to have a very, very rich taste. Because of the cream, it just makes it, it just gives it a really nice richness. And I mean, how many people put, sour cream on your potato? Well, what's the difference? I'm putting cream in here, it's just not sour. This, we're going to give it one more taste here to make sure we've got enough salt in here and enough garlic and enough everything in there. So, and a little bit more salt. Now, like we said before, or I said before, when you are using coarse salt, be careful because it's about 4 times as potent as table salt. All right, so this is the good thickness that we want, the good consistency, and now we want to add our potatoes. Now, generally speaking, we have the habit of wanting to pull it in this way. We don't. We want to put the potatoes in that way because if it splashes, it's going to go that way and not on us. So we are going to add some in here. We want to try not to let it splash. I mean, there is going to be some because that's just, my luck. So we're going to place these in there. And you want it so that it's fairly thick. We're going to get our spoon here and we're going to stir that around and see what the consistency is. And we're going to be able to add all of that. Now, if I'm doing it this way, I can control it, but now that I know that it's not so full, I can go and add this slowly and it's not going to splash up on me. Okay, so basically you're going to bring this to a boil. We're going to stir it just a little bit and this is done. It can come, and as you can see, it's a nice white color. That's because everything we added in here does not leak any color, like carrots would and bacon does, and it's just a very nice color, as white as you can get it. So I have washed out the pot and I have transferred the potato soup into the larger pot. So the potatoes, the way you want to check them is take a fork and see if you can find like the biggest potato that's in there and give it a taste. If it's tender, they're all done. We're going to add our milk. Now, because potatoes are in there, we're not going to whisk it. We're just going to slowly stir it. And at this point here, we're going to add our corn, which I have mixed a bag of peaches and cream corn and a can of cream corn. And it's looking spectacular. Nice consistency. We're going to add some cream to it, and then the secret ingredient. And you're going to balk at me and say, oh, there's no way we're going to put that in there. Well, you don't know what you're missing until you try it. This is something that is way out of left field. I have done this myself. I have done this in restaurants. I have been trained by a European chef that showed me this. So, you can choose what you want to believe. If you do not believe it or you do not want to try it, that's up to you. But once we get this up to simmer, we're going to add the cream in it, and then we will put our secret ingredient. Are you watching the pot just like I am, just to see if it's boiling? You know what they say, watch pot never boils. But with the magic of film, it's gonna boil now. And just like that, it starts to boil. Okay, now that we've got it to the boiling point here, we're going to turn it down just slightly, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, and we're going to temper the cream, and I will quickly show you how the potato soup with all the fixins is presentation. So you put the potato soup into the bowl. You're going to add some cheese. You're going to put in a little bit of sour cream. You're going to add your bacon bits and some green onions or chives. And that is your presentation. A really nice presentation. You stir it up and eat it. Fantastic. Add a little bit of this into our bowl. We're going to add our cream to this, and then we're going to add it to the soup. And because the potatoes in there and they are cooked, we want to use the spoon, not the whisk. Give it a quick taste. That's good soup. Back with the secret ingredient. What do you think that is? It's cold. It's white. It's got little black specks. Yeah, you guessed it. It's ice cream. We're going to put ice cream into our soup. So what this does is this adds a little bit of sweetness. This adds richness, and it adds just a little bit of thickness. So we don't want to actually be cooking this. We want this to be off now. We want just the regular heat just to melt the ice cream because we don't want it to separate. And we're just going to let that melt, and we're going to stir it, and then we'll give it one final seasoning to make sure that we've got it right. But other than that, this soup is fini. That's French in case you didn't know. I don't want to get in trouble like, you know, one of those guys from the Canadian Airlines did. So there's my French content. And there you have it, your baked potato soup with all the fixins and your corn chowder. You can add chicken to that, you can add whole vegetables to that, a whole bunch of different things, but that's the presentation of the two. Thanks for watching. See you again. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and pass it on to others. Let them see. Now you know 2 cream soups just like that. Have a great day.